According to this scale, I am 6 miles tall. Everything in this room may change time and time again as we move ahead.
Hi, 6 Miles Tall here. In September of 2022 at the D23 Expo, Walt Disney Animation Studios' Chief Creative Officer Jennifer Lee and Chris Beatty, Walt Disney Imagineering's Creative Director of New Fantasyland, stood with Disney Parks Experience and Products Chairman Josh D'Amaro at the Anaheim Convention Center and revealed vague renderings of a blue sky concept for opening space behind Magic Kingdom's Big Thunder Mountain, challenging the audience to imagine new lands themed to Encanto of Colombia, Coco of Mexico, and some sort of villain's land. Well, this of course sparked many conversations across the Disney fandom, conversations like, do Encanto and Coco belong in the Magic Kingdom versus World Showcase of Epcot? Can guests even get to the lands behind Big Thunder Mountain? And is villains really a theme? Recently, Braden, at Sir Braden on Twitter, of Mickey Views on YouTube, published a video explaining that he has sources who suggest that all of Frontierland might be reimagined to become a New Orleans Square to better flow with Tiana's Bayou adventure that is coming soon, a retheme of Splash Mountain. And Braden presented a thesis that this expansion would have a Coco and Encanto included in a desert-themed land that would include Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, and swing northward to a villain's land that would thematically blend as it merges to a walkway near the Haunted Mansion. Those are fascinating ideas and concepts, and they do carry rationale. Now, Tom Sawyer's Island was left unexplained and is said to remain, possibly in continuity with the New Orleans Square theme in that the island over there is right across the Mississippi from New Orleans. Now, I say unexplained because Braden was basically relaying information provided by his source. I like the concepting, I like the brainstorming, the rationale, and drive for continuity. You can, if you wish, listen to @WDW Scope and I pitch concepts for lots of spaces in Disney parks in our DisneySpace podcast, available on all of your podcast players. I highly encourage you to listen to all of these, especially the first show. And so from that, starting with the concepts that Braden relayed and proposed, I thought I would present another thesis. Not one to overstep what Imagineering is possibly planning or what Braden suggested. I want to show some ideas that may make more sense, things that may have better continuity and certainly better flow and crowd control. So let's get over a few things first. If we look what's going on with Tiana's Bayou adventure, and if we look what could go on with Imagineering's ambitions for what's possibly behind Big Thunder Mountain, and combine those with Braden's reveal of a New Orleans Square, removal of Frontierland, and a desert-themed land combining Coco with Encanto and Big Thunder Mountain, we see a few possible issues. First is somewhat obvious, and it's something that a lot of Diz Twitter snipers have been voicing. How do guests get to this expansion area behind Big Thunder Mountain? Well, if you've listened to our episode 11 of DisneySpace, where we reimagined the backside of Hollywood Studios between the end of Sunset Boulevard and the entrance of Toy Story Land, we had a lot of feedback from people saying, pretty sure there's a lot of important buildings back there. You can't expand there. Well, if we're to stick with that logic, there's a lot of important buildings back here too. Now, of course, the reality is all that can be removed, relocated, and reconstructed elsewhere if necessary. The same with Disney Hollywood Studios, guys. But even so, even if they opened up this backstage space, it's still kind of a funnel and a bottleneck to get crowds back there and around. Even if they themed it nicely and made wide, convenient pathways back there, it's kind of a long trek to get all the way back around the mountain and into the area thought to be Mexico's desert and the land of Coco. Even if Imagineering built into the banks of the rivers of America on the other side of the mountain, be it land paths or wooden walkways, it's still a bottleneck and a trek. And remember, either one of these possible paths requires guests to pass over this existing wooden walkway in front of Bayou Adventure, a bridge that already experiences crowds, especially when Splash Mountain was open. Can you imagine the additional traffic on opening weekend of this new expansion? And so if we also look at this other side of the rivers of America, where Braden's thesis included a villain's land that converges to the entrance of Haunted Mansion, providing some sort of haunting to villainous continuity, which is a bit odd in my opinion, but I see where he's going here. We could potentially have a second side of this overall expanded area where guests could access from either side of Rivers of America. But again, this area is already highly congested as it is just for the Haunted Mansion. The queue area is walled all the way down to the river's edge. So expansion of this area would still be necessary, but it would still provide a difficult bottleneck into the area. So what to do? I would like to present this set of ideas. The concepts that I'm about to show you are quite a bit more involved and certainly are more expensive, but they could give guests a better experience and give Imagineering more leeway in developing their expansion. Let's start with Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Imagineering's possible ambitions, per Braden's source, are to retheme much of Frontierland into New Orleans Square and possibly expand Liberty Square into the other parts of Frontierland, getting rid of Frontierland. While that makes sense to build upon this Mississippi Delta region surrounding the Salt Dome that is now Tiana's Bayou Adventure, the idea of a new New Orleans Square may not be necessary. If instead we look out to the Central Plaza entrance of Adventureland, we start our mysterious outpost of South Pacific island jungles, ascend a treehouse in New Switzerland near New Guinea, cruise the jungle rivers of the world, sing with the birds in a tropical serenade, then trek our way to the Caribbean where we venture with pirates. Exiting west from the Caribbean Sea, as we normally would, we would return to civilization at the mouth of the Mississippi Delta, this salt dome, take our last wild adventure in the bayou with Tiana, then enjoyed lunch in New Orleans, breakfast at the Crystal Palace, which is the sanctuary of last resort before entering Adventureland, and lunch at Tiana's Palace, after the conclusion of Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Tiana's Bayou Adventure belongs in Adventureland, so just include this entire attraction and its neighboring restaurant in an extension of Adventureland, and keep the rest of Frontierland as it is. That wooden pathway in front of Bayou Adventure along the rivers of America could still be considered part of Frontierland, linking to the Thunder Mountain out west. This makes sense as pioneers of old would follow rivers as they move west. The Arkansas River in Dodge City to the Colorado River in Utah and Arizona, the Mississippi near New Orleans. This arrangement provides much more clear continuity between themes and helps all of the areas make more sense. Quite honestly, I never liked Splash Mountain being here in the first place. I understand why they put it here because it's frontier looking and is a very convenient spot for the infrastructure required behind it, but I never really liked walking from this Kansas, Texas side to the Utah, Arizona, Dakotas, Montana, Wyoming side with a Georgia mud hill along the way. I've always thought Splash Mountain should have been built over there in Fantasyland. And I know the continuity isn't perfect with New Orleans along the way, but it's better than Georgia along the way, and it links to Adventureland even better, considering both sides of Adventureland. So put all of this new stuff, Tiana's Bayou Adventure and Tiana's Palace Restaurant, in an extension of Adventureland. Keep Frontierland as it is. The importance of keeping Frontierland for Big Thunder is that if Disney did indeed create this desert-themed land combining Coco with Big Thunder, the entrance to Big Thunder Mountain is such a very long walk away from Coco area that it may be hard for people's mind to connect that they're in the same area, even though stylistically they could be themed well together. But since their entrances are so far apart from each other, especially if you have to go around the back of the mountain to get to the Mexico side, that it just doesn't make sense. So if they build a Mexican-themed Santa Cecilia for Coco and Miguel and others, let's let it stand on its own as its own land and let Frontierland's Big Thunder Mountain just be a nice backdrop for that scenery. Sort of like how Hollywood Tower Hotel backdrops Morocco and Epcot. But what of Encanto in Braden's desert-themed land? Is Encanto desert-themed at all? Not really. It's in the mountain jungles of Colombia. So it might not attach very well with Coco and Mexico. And do we really want to build a high-brand new land so far away from the entrance gate of the Magic Kingdom, hoping guests will put up with a bottleneck and long pathways just to get to it, or even find it? Maybe they could build a train station here, but even then, getting regular everyday guests here, especially young kids and strollers, could be a high bar to cross. So could there be another option for Encanto, given Disney's ambition to promote it in the best way possible? I say yes. And here's where we need to become brave and ambitious as longtime enthusiasts of the Magic Kingdom. Braden proposed the idea of expanding the footprint of Liberty Square into Frontierland, meeting New Orleans Square at the halfway point. But what if instead we were to reduce Liberty Square to just the riverfront? Just the strip of land from Liberty Tree Tavern to Haunted Mansion. Maybe rename this little area to Liberty Riverfront or Liberty Harbor or something, keeping all of its existing theme as Eastern colonial America opposite the frontier and the far-off areas of adventure. And what if we designated just the spoke hub of Liberty Square available to Imagineering? Now I know what everybody's saying. How dare you suggest such blasphemy over one of Walt's ambitions? You can't get rid of Liberty Square? Well, I'm not suggesting we get rid of it. Let's just keep the riverfront portion of it, and its two attractions, the Liberty Bell Riverboat and the Haunted Mansion. But let's rebuild and retheme everything else to the bridge leading to Central Plaza. And to do this, let's take out the Hall of Presidents and relocate it to the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. Disney could even refashion some sort of Liberty Square around it, but get it out of the Magic Kingdom and bring it to D.C. where it belongs. Let's let Disney maintain it there, and even keep building new president animatronics and updating the show as the years go by. The Hall of Presidents is something that needs to be more accessible. Everyone who visits Washington, D.C., foreign or domestic, they need to come see this attraction. Open it to the wider public, bring school kids on field trips. There's just no need to limit access to this wonderful attraction with expensive park passes and reservations. It's time to increase its exposure and make it more accessible to all. Move it to D.C. We actually brought up this idea on episode 13 of DisneySpace, and listen to what @WDW Scope and I pitched for this space. It's quite wild. Anyway, with the hub spoke of Liberty Square erased, build Encanto Village here. Use the Hall of Presidents building to make a spectacular attraction of the Casita Magical House. The entire area could be rebuilt, themed around the entire village of the inhabitants of Encanto. They might even be able to build natural hilltop features on the roof of the Hall of Presidents building to give the area that Colombian South American feel, and those hilltop features could blend well with Fantasyland. So if we look from above, we have Fantasyland to the north, Adventureland to the south, and Encanto Village in between. Encanto Village is partly fantasy, magic at every step, every site, and partly adventure in the foothills of Colombia, the headwaters of the Amazon, which lead to Adventureland. It's a great transition land. It's a perfect blend. Not only does putting Encanto here provide better continuity on the side of Magic Kingdom between Fantasyland and Adventureland, it places this premium Disney brand within very easy reach and much easier to discover for guests. It just fits with the park, and when guests go through, they can exit the Encanto Village across the Gulf into free America, into Liberty Harbor. And can you imagine the parades that pass through Encanto Village? It would be quite a party, much more fun than today's environment in this area. Even in afternoon parades, Maribel could participate in a Main Street afternoon parade, dismount a parade float at the hub and say, "Come on everybody, follow me. Let's continue the party in Encanto Village." This magical village up front and center could be Magic Kingdom's Pandora. So put Encanto Village here in Liberty Square. And so going back, what do we do about this difficult access into the expansion spaces behind the rivers of America? Are we really going to squeeze our way around guests trying to board the Liberty Bell and those who are entering the Haunted Mansion and wrestle our way into Villain's Land? I'm pretty sure I would become a villain myself in the process of just getting there. So let's look at an alternative. Here's Fantasyland. Now I'm going to make another suggestion that might make the best of us cringe, but hear me out. Let's look at this large building that houses It's a Small World. This giant show building is right beside the Haunted Mansion show building, and behind Haunted Mansion is the vast available space. Perhaps Imagineering has been asking the wrong question. Perhaps we shouldn't ask what's behind Big Thunder Mountain. Maybe we should be asking what's beyond Small World. As our haunted ghost host says, let me offer you this chilling challenge. What if we were to get rid of the It's a Small World building entirely? Demolish it to the ground. Now I know what you're thinking here, too. What? Get rid of It's a Small World? Are you kidding me? Bad idea! My childhood! Okay, There is a contingency idea to deal with It's a Small World. We actually talked about this on our first DisneySpace podcast episode. Let's make our way to Epcot and to World Showcase and examine the Germany Pavilion. Germany's original design called for a boat attraction where guests could embark upon a Rhine River cruise. It was conceived as a short cruise and therefore a small footprint of a boat path inside of a show building. But what if we were to expand a larger show building attached to the Germany Pavilion and extend it out into an unused lot beside Germany, much like what France did with the Ratatouille show building? Put It's a Small World in World Showcase, where it belongs. After all, what better place to host It's a Small World than Epcot? The attraction itself is literally a showcase of the children of the world. And Germany, with its alpine flavor, plentiful plush bears, and cuckoo clocks, this place would be a great facade for the attraction. And if Germany's not the answer, move it to the old Millennium Village area. But move it to Epcot. And with that, with its building in Fantasyland removed, now we have this wide, inviting, unobstructed, direct path into the expansion area behind Fantasyland and Haunted Mansion. And then up to and along the rivers of America. So much more convenient. And because of Fantasyland being on the upper floor above the utilitors beneath, the guests have to somehow make their way down to this ground level of the expanded area. So the removed Small World building could be replaced with an interwinding set of sloped switchback paths that lead to this lower, darker area behind Fantasyland. The Haunted Mansion show building on this side could be surrounded and covered with new themed elements, creating this transition. And I'd like to call this lower hidden area Dark Fantasyland instead of Villains Land. I agree with my podcast host at WDW Scope in that Villains is not really a theme per se, but dark fantasy can be a theme. And Disney can place their darker characters, their darker attractions, their darker shows, perhaps even several roller coasters on the other side of the railroad, out of the view of the rest of Fantasyland but connected to it, and create this whole new space congruent with and adjacent to its lighter side. And if we continue westward across Dark Fantasyland along the rivers of America, we can enter the Mexican land of Coco, or something else if Coco fits better in Epcot's Mexico Pavilion. But Coco would fit nicely here. Santa Cecilia, Mexico. And actually, Santa Cecilia would blend very well with the Big Thunder Mountain backdrop. We could have several Miguel encounters, and this whole Day of the Dead motif might blend well towards Dark Fantasyland. And yes, I know Day of the Dead isn't truly dark per se, but visually and sensually could blend well. And it's another magical village in Magic Kingdom. And maybe, just maybe, instead of a dark fantasy theme, this back area of Fantasyland could host a Beauty and the Beast ride-through attraction, much like what they have in Tokyo. But what if we go even further? What if there are a new Fantasyland train station back here? And at this particular station, there could be a branch line with an out-and-back branch track that we could board another train on this expanded Walt Disney World Railroad and venture off further west into the Florida wilderness until we reach an entirely separate theme park west of the Magic Kingdom. And we call this new theme park Dark Kingdom. Dark Kingdom is a park connected to the existing monorail line with its own new station and a ferry dock. A park that could share its resources and infrastructure with its neighboring sister Magic Kingdom Park. And this park could bring out every idea that Imagineering could dream about darker, edgier themes and put it all into a full park. A coaster park if Disney wanted to go that far. Maybe a 16-year-old and older park. Certainly an Epic Universe competitor. And yes, I know there are other plans for this area, but they're not built yet. What if we could put a Dark Kingdom there? And if that could happen, if the back of Magic Kingdom could have no dark fantasy, but have an expansion area with Beauty and the Beast, and if Coco were at Epcot, maybe they could do something else behind Big Thunder Mountain. Maybe something else more congruent or continuous with the rugged West. Maybe a Cars Land. Or leave it open to future Disney and Pixar animated features. Provide some confidence to the studio teams. But Coco does fit very well here. But the idea of a side theme park could leave this expansion space available to future ideas. So that's it. Tiana's Bayou Adventure in Adventureland, a Frontierland that shrinks but remains, and a riverfront-style Liberty Harbor, Encanto Village replacing the spoke of Liberty Square, a removed and relocated Small World to Epcot, giving new wide-open access to the expansion areas behind Fantasyland, a possible Dark Fantasyland, a possible Dark Kingdom, a possible Beast Castle, a possible anything in the rest of this area. Better access, better flow, better adjacency, better congruency, better continuity, a better Magic Kingdom. Thank you for listening today.